Hello everyone, my name is Alex and welcome back to another video by the Obsidian Collective. I'm the host of a DID system, and this video is going to be talking about some changes that have happened in our system as of late. We haven't made a video in a little bit. It hasn't been that long, but longer than usual. I can't even remember when our last video was. And our last video, we talked about how there's a war going on in the inner world. An update on that is that the war has ended in the inner world. It was a pretty big deal, and it still is a pretty big deal. The abolishment of the current hierarchy that exists in the system is a pretty damn big deal. Alter rules have changed, and entire side systems, well, just one side system, has started to be disintegrated and combined into one system. We have two known side systems, so only one of them that this is occurring with. So that one is slowly being disintegrated, and alters from it are slowly being put into the main inner world, which used to be the S state. We made a video about our inner world. That inner world video is now completely inaccurate, because when the main gatekeepers, who are no longer the gatekeepers in our system, were in power, the inner world was this S state that existed in this much larger kingdom. And there was a mansion, and there was a tree house, and it was surrounded by a line of trees, in a circle form. And that has been completely changed. Ace, our former head protector, he took Asher, who is our former head gatekeeper, he took him out of power. And the war basically was ended on pure strategy. It was kind of a sneak attack, quote unquote. It sounds silly to talk about it like that, but it was very real for in the headspace. And Ace kind of took his own army in the inner world, and which was called the Revolution. And then the gatekeepers that weren't a part of the revolution, they were called the traitors. And so the revolution got together and they did this sneak attack, and they managed to overtake the traitors. And he took Asher out of power, basically. And at the time, it was pretty intense because we had alters literally being held hostage in the inner world by the traitors. And the traitors, you could be considered really severe persecutors, because some of them felt they weren't persecutors. They felt they were doing what's best for the system, and they were doing basically what they were quote unquote designed to do. And we don't really talk about that stuff very much for our own safety and stuff like that, but it's a huge deal that they've been taken out of the position of power that they were in. I mentioned before that our gatekeeper, they used to be they would run the inner world kind of like a dictatorship. And it was what they say goes, and even though their decisions most of the time, you would kind of look at them and be is that right? That doesn't seem right. This doesn't seem morally correct. You can't really say much against them because they're the ones in power, and they're the ones who control memory access, and they're the ones who control flashbacks, and it gets to a point where they control aspects of the system where it's kind of keeping alters in a state of fear and keeping them in a state of what they were before um, before the revolution took over. But now, with the revolution taking over, who was led by our head protector Ace, who was probably like the only person in a high position in the council, which has now been abolished. The council was like the gatekeepers and also some of the protectors, but it was mainly comprised of the traders, the gatekeepers who were traders and who were basically using fear to control the alters in the system. And so Ace kind of was slowly recognizing this, and he started this campaign in the inner world called the Fuck You Miles campaign, which was basically this campaign against one of the gatekeepers. His name is Miles, and he is very disliked by the members of the revolution. I mean, most of the gatekeepers are, and he was disliked. Ace first started disliking him and first recognized how terrible he was because Alex, went dormant in 2021, 2022. I think it was 2022. It was the beginning of 2022. And I came out of dormancy, but he didn't know that I came out of dormancy because Miles kept me in a world and basically punished me for reacting the way I did to a trauma I went through that caused me to go into dormancy. And it's hard to talk about, and it's hard to even, I feel like a lot of people wouldn't even understand that if I talked about it to them. Basically, an alter making another alter relive a traumatic experience. It's really messed up, but it happened. And Ace, I told him what happened, and he immediately was really, really pissed at Miles because Ace, prior to being head protector, was my personal protector. So he kind of is very biased towards me and very biased towards like what happens to me. And even if it was another alter that happened to, he would have been very, very pissed off, and like rightfully so. So he started this campaign called the Fuck You Miles campaign, which was basically him recruiting other alters to basically be against Miles. And eventually it snowballed into recruiting people for the revolution because it started becoming very obvious as we began our healing process more and more that the gatekeepers weren't doing good for us. And it wasn't just Miles, it was Asher and it was Mary. And, I don't know if I've mentioned those names on the channel before, but those were pretty much the big three. It was Miles, Mary, and Asher. And they were the big three gatekeepers. And, it's really weird to go through it all because, like, I really, really liked Mary. She was really, really sweet. But then when it all came out, when Ace realized, and when Ace realized just how bad it was, just how bad they were, just how much they were hurting the system in a world, like they were doing more harm than some of the persecutors. And it just wasn't okay what they were doing. And so it was hard. And immediately we had to start this thing where the protectors were basically like Ace was leading this revolution, and he basically ordered the protectors and the soothers to be assigned to these different groups, which now still exist. They go by letter. It's like Group A, Group B, Group C, Group D, and different alters are assigned to different groups depending on what their trauma is or like what they need help with. And they there was like safe havens created throughout the inner world because the war was happening, and the traders basically kind of like weaponized the persecutors who were like very far from healing, quote unquote, very much like still brainwashed in a way. Well, they really were, and they were being used to attack other altars, to keep altars in line, and to keep altars from straying from what our abusers would want them to be and what our abusers want them to act like and everything. And, it takes a lot to get to this point. It's incredibly hard to get to this point. I'm shocked we even managed to win, I guess, because they were having persecutors like attack other altars in a way that it was just like horrible. And like they had our she's not our head soother, but she's the third in line for the soothers, but she's the head caregiver, so she takes care of the littles. Her name is Solar, and they had her hostage basically, and they had some of the littles hostage, so it was very much like we can't act, we can't do anything to stop what the gatekeepers are doing, what the corrupt gatekeepers are doing, because they're going to hurt the littles, and we don't want that to happen because the littles have already gone through enough trauma as is. We don't need to be adding more to that. So it got really, really sticky, really, really scary, really, really rough, and really just scary. It was hard. And Ace ended up he ended up losing an eye, which I believe I stated in a prior video. So like he was one of the ones who got one of the more severe injuries. There are other alters who like broke their arms, broke their legs, but he's pretty much the only one who got like the real bad one, which is good. But it's horrible that he experienced that. And Solar basically started a hospital in the inner world once we managed to get her back, once we managed to overthrow the gatekeepers, the traitors. And she's trying to see if she can heal Ace's eye and see if we can make it a non-permanent injury. But so far, things aren't really looking good in that regard. And it might just be something that Ace forever has to carry in a world, which is like horrible. But she's trying her best to see if she can basically heal his eye, and it's just wild. And for a while, I got completely disconnected from the inner world. At first, I had no access to the inner world as host. I wasn't able to really see anything, and then it became more of like I can look in the inner world, like if I really focus I can like look back and see like kind of what's going on, but like it's really difficult and I have to be pretty dissociated. And then it became where I can sometimes be in the inner world, not always, it's not really reliable. And then it became I can't see the inner world again. And that was, I believe that was because the inner world has been completely changed following the abolishment of the council, following the end of the traitors. The basement still exists, it just exists in an apartment building because the inner world is now a city. Like before it was this estate in like the middle of the woods, like, or not the middle of the woods, but it was like this clearing surrounded by woods. It was like in the middle of nowhere. There was nothing really around it. There was like a path to the castle that only certain people could go down because the castle is not accessible to everyone because it's like a side system. So only like certain altars have access to it, which was mainly like the traders. And also like the gatekeepers in the castle, who have actually been very nice when it comes to the war situation. They've been on the side of the revolution, which is why when the council got abolished, Ace kind of immediately contacted Felix, who is the gatekeeper of the castle side system, and he immediately began establishing communication with them, which was something, originally we thought would take years and years and years and years. And it basically is like this abolishing of the council and this taking these traitors and gatekeepers out of power basically was a huge step forward for us healing. Like, it's still probably going to be a really, really, really long journey, um, but it's like a step in the right direction. And so that's happening. So the inner world's now a city. It's a huge city. There's a bar, and it's controlled by an alter. His name is R. That's not his full name, but like I'm not comfortable sharing his full name, so his name is R. And it's his bar. He's actually like an alter who carries alcohol-related trauma and addiction. Um, but he runs a bar, so that's what he does, and it's kind of can be useful. Like, it's kind of interesting because it like a bar in real life. People will go to a bartender, pass them a 20, and be like, "Can you give me information?" And it's the same in our inner world. You can go to our bar and be like, "Can you give me information on this altar?" And then you can get information depending on if he has it. But he's like pretty in the know. It's kind of like Ace has always been one of the altars you go to if you want to pass a message to another altar, because he is connected to like every altar because he was the head protector. Everyone trusted him, hence why he was the leader of the revolution. Everyone trusted him enough to be the leader of the revolution. Now he has become head gatekeeper in replaced Asher, and he's more stressed. I mean, he was stressed before, but he's more stressed now because he has even more responsibilities. And he like he still is someone that people can go to and be like, "Can you please pass this message to another altar?" Because communication between altars is not always very easy. I don't have access to, I can't really communicate with like X, for an example, who is a new altar, but I'll get into that. But like I can communicate with Ace like really well because I'm really like I've worked through our communication with him for a long time compared to a new alter like X. So if I wanted to pass along a message to X, I'd have to either like write a note to him in the physical world, like on our phone or on a sticky note, or I'd have to go to Ace and be like, "Can you please pass this message to him?" And go through there. But Reed R, he is like another altar you can go to and pass along a message to, and he can maybe get it to the altar you want. It depends. His clientele are all like 21 plus because it's a bar. So if you want him to give a message to like a teenage altar, he's probably not going to be able to get it to them, because that's not really the kind of altars who go into his bar. But if you want if your message is to be passed along to an altar that's like, I don't know, like 40, then yeah, it'll probably get to them. So that's good. It's like another form of communication, and it's like this area where altars can participate in like vices, like smoking and like drinking and getting high and all of that. And it's like kind of useful, it's and bad at the same time, because it's like kind of it's like promoting addictive behavior. But like when you have a group of alters that have experienced life altering trauma and like literal like torture, let them have a cigarette. It's like, yeah, it's bad for them, but after what they've been through, just let them have it. And so that has been a lot. And then on top of that, this month we experienced a new trauma event, and I know what that trauma event is. I don't know the details because I don't hold the memories because I completely blacked out for it. We just completely did, we just split for it. So there's an alter, his name is X, and he holds that trauma. And he is categorized as a heavy trauma holder in the system. And like, it's like great. We're doing so well with our healing. We're at this huge like breaking point almost. And then more trauma. And so I was like talking to my friend about how like abusers are like, they kind of like know who to pick when they're targeting someone. And so like I'd like to think that we have gotten better at getting away from abusive situations and stuff like that, but at the end of the day we're not fully healed, and there are entire parts of the system that are still stuck when we're a kid and they don't know better. And so it's like we don't, we're not fully healed, and like we're not, it's not our fault that additional trauma happened to us, but it sucks that it's more to heal from. One of the alters in our system, he is the head caretaker, secondary soother. He has this saying where he goes, like, he says, the trauma is not our fault, but the healing is our responsibility. And I used to be like, oh, yeah, that's so true. But I've come to the point where I'm in the third stage of trauma healing. I'm in the stage where it's anger. I'm just angry all of the time at everything. And I before would internalize all my anger, so I didn't really like let myself feel it, because a lot of the abusive people in my life and a lot of people who caused us to be this way were really angry, twisted people. And so I have always had a really hard time with the feeling of anger, because it reminds me of the people who kind of ruined me in a sense. And so lately, with my trauma healing journey, I've been in this stage where it's just anger all the time. And yes, it shows me that I'm moving forward in my healing journey, because I've progressed through the stages. I've progressed through denial. I've progressed through, I forget what the second one is, but the third one is anger, and then the fourth one is sadness, and then the fifth one is acceptance. So like, I'm I'm like I'm like I'm at the third one, which is something to be proud of. But I don't like it. I don't like the feeling of being angry. I don't like being angry at everyone. I don't like being angry. I just don't like it. It's an icky emotion that makes me uncomfortable. And I wrote this like long thing about how we need to stop being we need to stop being disgusted by the emotion anger, because it's not completely bad. It's like the reason people like it's the reason why revolutions happen. Like, people get so angry and fed up with how they're being treated, they can they finally like explode, and they escape what trauma and what like torture and what abuse is happening to them. Like, anger is a really important emotion necessary for survival. But like, when through your formative years through my formative years, I experienced anger in such a way where it was horrible and traumatizing. I don't want to feel it, I don't want, it reminds me of my trauma. So I don't want to feel it. I'm no thank you. So that hasn't been fun. But another area of the inner world that has been established is the Soother Center, which is a therapy office in the inner world. It basically became a thing for us. We've talked about this a lot on our channel. We have a really hard time with finding decent therapists, which I think we may have found one that finally can help us, but I don't know until I start meeting with her, and I'm hoping that she accepts our new insurance, which was also a problem. It took us a long time to finally get on not completely shit insurance. So it's been an uphill battle, and I'm hoping that this all will lead to good things. Like 2023 has been probably one of the like roughest years when it's come to healing. Um, and like I ended up in the hospital and I went to several partial programs because I was doing so badly. Like I almost took my life and I relapsed and it was just a mess. It was really bad, really, really hard. And then the war happened. We discovered all of this trauma that's like absolutely horrific that we didn't know about, and it was really something that I don't even know if we were ready to deal with at the time. Um, but it's just like horrific what happened to us, and it's kind of also horrific how hard it is to get help after you've gone through something horrible. And like the world does not make it easy to heal from trauma. It's not it's not easy. Trauma healing is not an easy process in general, but it's not even easy to get help is the thing. Like you always hear people say, "Oh, reach out and people will help you." But it's not that easy. It's not that simple. I was reaching out for years and years and years, and there was a long time where I was in denial, and I was still reaching out even without knowing it. So it was like I was trying, and it took me a really, really long time, and I still don't even know if this therapist is gonna work out. So I could still be going up that uphill battle. But I like, there's something about being a survivor that's just like it. I don't want to give up, you know. I just I keep going at it. I was in the car with my friend one time, and like her family is one of the main reasons why I was able to get to a point where I was able to heal at all. There were times where I got kicked out of my house and like I went and stayed with her, and it's just like if I didn't have her, would I even be around still? I don't know. Maybe not, when I went to the hospital after I was like, if I don't go to the hospital, I'm going to end up taking my life. She's the one, and her family picked me up when I got out. And like, it's just, otherwise I would have been alone. So I'm really thankful for her and her family. And I think if you don't have a support group, if you don't have someone like that in your life, healing is even harder. Like I have a very small support group, which is her family, and obviously I'm not their blood family. I can't rely on them for everything, unfortunately. And so there are times where I have to do things myself and I have to be doing that battle on my own. And I've been doing a lot of the battles on my own. Well, not completely on my own because I've had the system, but I believe I'm like getting to a point where I can do it. It's really hard. And so I was sitting in the car with her that one time and we were talking about how hard it's been. And I was like, I don't think I'm ready to give up. And I was like kind of crying, but I don't think they knew that I was crying. But it's just like, I'm not ready to give up despite everything. It's like, I don't even know how I managed to survive it. Like, I don't. So, like, I think it's possible to survive and to heal. But it's so slow, and it doesn't help that I'm always angry nowadays because, resentfulness is not a good emotion. And I've had therapists tell me that I shouldn't sit too much in my resentment because it'll change me into a person I don't want to be. And like there's therapists that'll be like, you need to forgive the people who hurt you, and at the moment I'm of the mind of no, I think you can heal without forgiving, because I think some people don't deserve your forgiveness. Like, me forgiving the people who hurt me isn't going to help me heal, because they don't deserve forgiveness, you know? They deserve to be in prison. But at the moment, that's not the case. So, what can I do? You know, I'm just gonna have to, like, I can accept what happens to me, and I think that's better. I don't think I necessarily have to forgive, but I do think I need to accept it to be able to move on, because I can't change what happened. So, yeah, this is a long video. I wasn't expecting to talk about this for so long, but it was, a lot has happened. And yeah, I really appreciate all of you who watch this channel. And, you know, I hope, like, you're rooting for us, because I'm rooting for the other systems out there. And I think it can be really helpful to see content like this where other traumatized individuals, other systems, you see their experience and you see the struggles and you see them healing, even if it's just a little bit, because I think that can give hope to people. But I also think it's good to see the bad side of it, because then you feel like you're not alone. So yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. I think that's all I wanted to say. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and we'll answer them. You know, if you have any video ideas, if you want to hear us talk about any particular subject, about DID or like mental health or whatever, more, you can. And if anything in this video was piqued your interest, like if you want to hear more about the groups that alters have been assigned to, if you want to hear more about the war or whatever, if you want to hear more about like the city, or if you want us to do an updated video on the inner world, you know, like whatever, just ask for it down below and we'll get around to making it eventually. We are working full time now, so it's, you know, it may not come right away, but it'll eventually come. And so just look out for that. And thank you for all of you who support us and leave comments, and I really appreciate you all. So yeah, thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Make sure to take your meds, make sure to drink water, make sure to eat, and just make sure to love yourself and take it easy. Alex out.